Alright, so let's continue. Now we need to fix a few things on the link redirect component. The first thing that we need to do is we need to handle the case where the user is trying to visit a link which is not valid. Maybe the owner deleted it or the link in itself is not valid. So for that, currently we are just showing a loader if the loading state is like true, which is the case initially, like by default it's true. And now, well, one more thing that we can actually do is, like along with this, the circular progress, we can also show a text using the typography which says that redirecting to the link, something like this. I have seen this thing on different websites. Now that being done, let's also set the text align on the box component to be off center, which will align these two in the center. And let's also visit a link which is not valid, something like this. If we do that, there we have these two looking pretty nice. Now we need to handle this case. So what we can do is, see, initially the loading is true, so we will be making the request to fetch the respective document. If it does exist, we are kind of redirecting to that long URL. Otherwise, over here we can add in the else statement and we can set the set loading to be false. So this thing will only happen if the link is not, like if the link doesn't exist. So we are kind of doing two things with what's the saying, like killing two birds with a single arrow or stone, something like that. So we are using the loading state in order to show the loader, but at the same time we are using it to show the error message, which we will be doing in a second. So if the loading is false, which means that the request was successful, however the document doesn't exist. So for that, over here we can actually do another else statement, because if loading is true, we are showing the loader, and we can add in else return a box component. I could have wrapped the entire thing with a single box wrapper, but never mind. Let's add in margin to the top of 10, text align off center, and over here let's add in the typography which says something like link is not valid, something like this. So if we do that and if we take a look, as you can see, if I refresh, this is a wrong link. Initially for a second the user sees that redirecting to the link. However, when the document doesn't exist, we are setting the state to be false, which means that the link is not valid. Well, one second, it's link is invalid, or yeah, link is invalid. Then we are showing the message of link is invalid. So that's great, that's exactly what we need to do. Now there's one last thing that we need to do, which is kind of important. So we need to increment the total clicks, the total redirects to be precise. So for that, what we need to do is we need to update the original document, not the one which is inside the links collection, not this one, but the actual document which is inside the user's sub collection of links, the links sub collection, this thing. So for this, what we can do is we have everything that we need. We have the link ID, which is actually the link document ID, and we have the user UID. So we actually have everything that we need to get to that path. So let's do that as well. We are importing Firestore. So over here, like before we obviously redirect to the user, we need to make the request. So within the Firestore, let's get to the collection, and actually we will be destructuring the other two fields as well, which are the link ID, making sure that we don't like add any typos, like exactly the same field names. So we have the link ID and we have the user UID in such a way. Now we just need to construct the path. So within the users collection, the root level, we need to get to the document for which we are using the user UID, and we have that over here. Then we need to get inside the sub collection of links, and then the document for which we also have the ID, which is link ID, this thing. So we just need to update this document, and we need to update the document in such a way that we increment the field, the total clicks. So the thing is, as we will be restricting the access for any user other than the owner to read this document. Any anonymous users cannot see this thing, not anonymous, even the authenticated ones who are not the owner, they will not be able to see this document. Only the actual user who is the one who created it, only that user will be able to see this thing. So we will be restricting the access. There are 5 different actions which we discussed. There is get, there is update, there is create, there is delete. I'm kind of missing one, and there is list. Yeah, so only the normal user, they will only be able to update this document, and even then we will be adding certain restrictions that they don't update any other field, or they don't add any other field. They can just update this document, that too only by 1. So we will be doing that within the security rules. So in order to increment this thing, you may think that we do need to know the number of clicks so that we can update that thing. Well, actually we don't. There is a field value on Firestore which is increment this thing. So we just need to use the increment, this function, which allows us to update the numeric value of any field. So we can use this increment to even decrement, we just need to provide the negative value, but that's something else. Let's just use it to update the document, and for that we first need to wait 1 minute. Within the account page over here, we were using the server timestamp which is inside the app. Okay, so we need to import the app from the Firebase file, this thing, within which over here we need to update the total clicks, and we have the app Firestore field value and the increment method, and we need to call this thing with 1 because we just want to increment it by 1. So if we do this thing, and there's one more thing, we won't be awaiting this request, as it doesn't make any sense to stop the user before redirecting them to the actual link. This thing can happen in background. The request will be made, we don't really care for it to finish because it will happen. The user doesn't need to know that the total clicks has been updated, so we won't be adding the await before it. So now if we save it and if we take a look, let's try visiting a short link, and I will be splitting up the view so that we can see it in real time over here. So let me just copy this link, and if we visit it, as you can see, the total clicks was incremented. So that is great. That's exactly what we need to do. As you can see, it's working perfectly fine. So that is brilliant. Now, in case you there's something I was kind of thinking of. In case you don't want a single user to just, if you want to add the functionality where the single user, in order to have the unique clicks, to say in other words, you don't want a single user to increment it more than once. So for that, what you can do is, it's possible you can kind of update that thing within the local storage, and before making this request, you can kind of check with the local storage if it's the first time the user is trying to visit this link. If yes, then you may need to update that document, otherwise you can kind of skip this part. So that's one way to look at it. If you really want to enforce the unique clicks thing. So I think that's it. We have the redirect part. The other thing is, as you can see, we are actually able to see the total clicks, which is brilliant. It's actually amazing that everything is getting in shape.